Burbridge Center Office Building, 301 Main Street, if you'd like to join us on the second floor. First, we have a quorum check. We have one missing. Paul's missing. We have 4 in attendance. Start off with the CPA updates. With the committee updates. CPA, we met last night and approved the tearing down of the shed on the Plimpton property, funds for that, to the tune of about $8,000, eight something.
8,300.
Yeah.
Something.
That was pretty much a complete meeting. We were short and had to beg people to come in just to sign that so we could give it to the selectmen. Last night was the last night. Trails?
Mr. Chairman, if the 8,000 does not get completely consumed on the Plimpton building removal, can any of that be used for the Heinz Farm removal?
Not automatically, no.
But they both were purchased using CPA money,
Right.
so there'd have to be a separate application,
Just go through the process, yeah.
and it has to go through town meeting.
Yes and no.
Okay, yes, yes,
Well,
sir.
the answer to that is we have an administrative budget of, like $15,000, which we set aside to use this for, so.
So it bounced back into that administrative budget.
Yeah. So it's not under,
Trails Committee has not met. They meet on the second Thursday of the month, and if any of you all want to go to it, I would appreciate it, because I can't go to it. I'm going to be on the vineyard.
I'll be at that meeting. Dave.
Very good, thank
Oh.
you.
nothing from open space and Lakes Advisory? Anything? Nothing. Go to the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of September 18th as modified. Modifications were fairly simple. In one case, it was indicated that I had abstained from the solar field. I did not. I had voted no, that I did not want to give them the reduction in the order of conditions or take away the enforcement order that we had. So it was 4-1, and it has been corrected.
Okay. Any other comments, Steve?
Oh, they were good.
All in favor?
We have to second it first.
What?
I second it.
Seconded? Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
That's how the discussion normally goes after the second, you know.
Well, the heat's up. All right, so we have approved minutes. You want to,
Yep.
what do you want to do next? Because we're not going to
We
be.
can start with our 2 requests for a certificate of compliance because the property owners are here. So if you want to come up, I don't know that we'll have any questions for you, but you got to speak in the mic if we do. So if you want to come sit up at the table or stand, you can. So this is 2 requests for certificates of compliance for 39 Bennett Road. And both of these date back a little bit. One is file number 300-280 from the 90s.
Sit if you want.
So this one, was for the construction of the new home after the original one burnt down.
Right.
So this one was just for the construction of the home. This one is fine. Don't have any concerns. It's a complete certification, and there were no ongoing conditions at the time. The other one was for the construction of a garage addition on the property, so. And that one too is a complete certification. I didn't have any concerns. Just noted on the plan, there was a small shed, not part of this project, existing, that said was gonna come off, not for conservation. It's still there, but it wasn't something that, was required by conservation to come out or anything. So I don't have any concerns with it staying there, so that was the only thing, but.
Well, let's make it tough on Bill then. I make a motion that we approve, giving the approval for the 2 signatures.
Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second.
We have 2 seconds. Steve or Steven?
Take your pick. I like your hair.
You guys' timing was really
So,
good.
the as-built, any discussion? All in favor?
See, we made it hard on you, sir.
I'm gonna pass
Thank
those
you.
You're
down.
not leaving, are you?
And the second one didn't have any ongoing
Excuse me?
conditions
You
on it,
leaving?
so you know.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to lose good citizens. Come on, man.
Well, I'll stop by.
Okay.
You guys gonna become snowbirds?
No, we're moving to the town, the other side of it,
Oh.
Charlton.
Great.
So, tomorrow we'll make copies and stuff and we can mail it to you, or if you prefer to pick it up, that's an option too, so it's your choice. Pick it up? Okay,
Great.
okay. So maybe like after 10 o'clock or so, and that we can make, there's letters that go with it and stuff like that too, so.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Stay dry.
Take care. Stay dry.
All right,
Really coming down out there.
what's this gentleman here for?
Mass DOT.
Oh, DOT, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
You know-
no, he's a resident in
Before
town. He
they
lives on
leave.
Cedar Lake. He's part of the Lake Association, so he's here for the meeting.
Oh, he's here for the meeting, oh,
What are
okay.
we supposed to do before the leave?
No. Just to give credit where credit is due, if you look at the Heinz Farm catalog, Bill's the one that did almost all of the work on the inside of the catalog, took all of the pictures on the catalog,
Oh,
and
I
gets a
didn't know
credit in the fold-out catalog. So we thank you for that really great work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, we have orders of conditions for signature. This is 84 McGargle. I sent you the special conditions.
Yep.
I didn't send you the NOI form because I didn't get online yet and do it, but I did that today. I went back through it, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions or concerns with the conditions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, they were good.
I don't know if you saw, but I put in conditions about, for the protection for trees, like a snow fence and
Right.
things like that,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought they were fine.
Oh, and just to let you know, we received the ANRAD for that 550 Route 15 where we had the forest cutting plan. We did receive that. It'll be on our next meeting agenda, and we'll go out there next Tuesday for our site visit.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah.
All right.
And then they were at, from my understanding, Board of Selectmen last night. I wrote a memo for that too, so for approval for the, under the forest harvesting bylaw.
That's not on here, though, huh?
No,
No.
I just, I was looking at the filing just came in on Friday afternoon,
Yeah.
after we posted it. Yeah, so I just wanted to tell you, because it was something, because we have that cease and desist there, so.
Imagine.
Right, so we have a lot of letter permits. I mean, I can pull up some pictures of these if you want, but I'll start with the first one, 326 The Trail. It's 3 dead pine trees. Ashley and I went out there. Very clearly dead. There's a lot of other trees in that area.
All
I
right.
don't have any concerns with it.
Stephen, if you'd like to ask Ashley what she thinks a dead tree is.
Yeah, good question.
I mean, I have photos if you want to see them, but they're all like on the property boundary.
We'll take your word for it.
Okay.
We need one person to pick on routinely. Come on.
Well, I think we're just trying to defend ourselves from.
So, do you
Sign
want to
it?
vote on? Nope. It's a letter permit for
Yeah.
tree removal.
All in favor?
You don't really need a vote, you just need everybody to agree.
Agreement.
But yes.
For the letter permits?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, all right. 328 the trail right next door. They also have 3 dead pine trees, all very clearly dead. Like I said, there's a lot of trees on both. They're on the property boundaries. Any concerns?
None?
Okay.
All dead? All in favor?
Alright. We also have the tree removal application for 274 Big Alum. We had all gone out there. There's a total of 9 trees on the
Yeah.
site. One was already permitted. She has a letter permit from last year or the year before for that. I believe it was last year. So it was 7 additional trees and one that was already down pretty much that she's gonna take out, so. Any concerns?
I have no
No,
concerns.
no, all in favor?
All in favor.
No,
Okay.
Barnacle, I don't know if Barnacle abstained or.
No, I said I have no concerns.
Okay.
We have 110 Westwood. This one, last year, they took out this tree right here. This one was dead. This was in like March, I think. But we had proof that it was dead. So now, I didn't take a picture when I just went out there, so I used this old one. This one's dead. There's no trees on it. It's another oak tree. And then he's got another one, this one here, by the water, but, so you can see it up there.
Yeah.
And there's some other trees right there. So we allowed him to take the one tree out in the front by the road. It was pretty far away, and at the same time, he didn't close out one of his orders of conditions from before, so we closed it out on the site. So we did that recently too. But I just wanted to show, I mean, there's not a lot of space down here to plant another tree. I mean, this is the one that needs to come out, but I took that picture with the canopy there too. In order to put, this is like a slope that goes down right here. In order to put another tree down here, you'd have to rip out this whole stump. So I just wanted to show you some pictures while you thought about replacement. I didn't,
Is there any
Think-
possibility of putting shrubs along the side of where those 2 stumps will be?
I don't think there's much space. This is all slopes down. He's got all the
What about where
herbaceous.
the greenery is?
See, there's a couple of hostas there. You mean over here?
No, I was talking about right there,
This?
the greenery right in back, right there.
Yeah.
Instead of having that, if we got some berry bearing bushes, it would help.
I don't remember how tight it was there with the stone going down. Like it's a
Oh.
stone, you can see the stone up on top here.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that mostly going down, but I don't remember.
It might also be more dangerous pulling that stuff out and making it subject to
Yeah.
erosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna really open that up by taking that tree out, but,
Yeah.
Well, if it's totally dead, it's
Yeah.
not doing a lot of.
well,
We're
true.
talking about replacement though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what, there's these trees here. I don't think they'll branch out to fill in that space, but.
Right.
Well,
Well, you were out there. Did you see any place that they could put a new tree?
Not really, because even going down the property line, it's really tight.
Yeah.
With the people next door, like the steps go down and the property line is right there. On the other side, they did have some trees there, and the neighbor had some trees, but no, it didn't really look like, it's all like stone steps going down on the side. I mean, I think I have some more pictures from when I went out there before.
The 3 trees are dead, but those are 3, large
Right.
trees that we're losing.
These are pictures I took
Lost.
last time, but I don't think I took a lot of pictures. Oh, here we go. This is a better picture.
Yeah.
This is where, and there's some, you can't see the plants because this is when I was out there in March.
What about like in this area? Because that looks like it's a flat. Do they use
Well-
that for?
There might be something planted there. I mean, this is March, so anything herbaceous, if it's hostas or whatnot, because I know he's got hostas around the tree. Right, I don't know.
But since there are questions that we can't answer, if you're interested in
Oh, here we
seeing
go.
about
Yeah, there we go. There's a good picture.
getting
I have some more pictures too.
input.
Of down
Well,
below there?
you know, we have our 2-to-1 replacement rule.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
There's
my
the-
thought is that I would like to see, like, I thought the exact same thing before David said that about putting some shrubs in.
Yep,
Well, why
So
don't
at least
have
we
them come-
have,
Why don't we get a planting plan from the applicant?
tell them we want some
Okay.
bearing bushes or, you know, something
Well-
wildlife.
okay, so what we've done in the past is we've approved it, provided that they do the replacement, and do you just want bushes for the one tree by the water or the one by the road too?
Both. It doesn't matter if they
It
replace
doesn't
it up
matter
by the
which
road.
one, which one it's for.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how
Yeah.
many I need to tell them.
I'd like to see at least 4 bushes
Okay,
put in.
yep,
Agreed.
right, and we didn't require anything for that
Okay.
last large one,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it all depends, this is becoming more and more barren.
Right.
So
No, I know.
So it's not a question of tit for tat. It's a question of whether there's the opportunity to put some
yeah.
back.
For example, there's room in back of those 2 stumps that we saw for one berry-bearing bush, and it would hide the 2 stumps. It would end up acting as a camouflage barrier,
Right, they might be able to do something there.
right there.
Yeah, I mean, right, I mean, I think there is, I think it was hostas in the other picture, so there's some things
Yeah,
there,
but
but he could put something else.
Hoster is a decorated plant.
No, I know,
It's
I
not gonna do
know.
anything for the environment.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Agreed?
Yep.
What else do we have?
Are we
Fairview Park? You haven't
Yeah.
done
are we expecting the 50 Dowdy Road?
that? No.
no,
Okay, so
No, you're not
do I
gonna have
need
to
to?
read that tonight.
I don't have to read it, all right.
no, but right, we should say, so,
Cutting your pay.
so both public hearings, they asked for continuations till our next meeting, so they'll be on our
Okay.
October 16th meeting, and I think they're at 7:15 and 7:30, so. All right, 72 Fairview, this one, so this is what they provided us with, but I think it's useful to look here.
Well, did anybody not see it?
I have not seen it.
I have not seen it, oh, okay.
Okay, so there's been some new, not developments, but, so this is 72 Fairview. They have solar panels on their house, and they need to remove trees because they're not getting enough light. So we have a wetland across the street here. I mean, this isn't exact. It actually comes up over here. It's all phragmites in the pipeline here. So there's a wetland here. And then, you know, further back way over here, there is too. So they need to remove trees in the front of their property, which is 72. One tree here, you can see the shadow cast right there. This tree, they're asking.
Yeah.
All of these trees here, and then they're also asking for some trees in the back, but the ones in the back are out of our jurisdiction.
Hold on a second. I don't know who the solar installer was for this project.
Yeah.
But I know from personal experience, one of the first questions that the solar installer asks and tests for is whether they can get 80% of the available sunlight before they install the panels.
Right.
Sometimes they get sold a bill of goods. I've had multiple guys call me, but the first one that called me said, I'm looking at your property, I'm looking at that yellow birch, I'm looking at that hemlock, how tall are they? I told them, they said, it's not gonna work in your house. After that, I bet I had 5 companies call me, and they said, no, we can work around that. I said, well, you're not gonna cut my trees down. No, there'll be enough light.
Right.
Bull.
If
this
they were
says-
sold a bill of goods, it does
Got
not
sold a
give
bill
us
of
reason
goods.
to cut
They're
all
gonna-
the trees down.
The application says that the trees have grown substantially to shade the solar array. They're
Right.
big oaks that. So,
course they're shading.
well, here's the thing though too. So this is, I mean, it's
That is ridiculous.
in our outer jurisdiction, but like when I told them when they applied for this, I said, I don't know those are your trees or town trees. So Tom ended up going out there. And the trees on 72 in the front all appear to be on the road side of, you can see an old like stone wall, and he said those are town trees. So they might not be his trees. It hasn't been officially determined yet, but they wanted to proceed with their application in case. It most likely is town trees, and they'll have to go through an
Right.
application process and might not be able to remove them anyways.
Do you have a letter for the tree across the street on the other person's property?
On 75,
Yeah,
I don't have it.
okay, so you really don't, we're just talking here, right? Well,
Well-
the points that we discussed were, if they want to cut down a tree on somebody else's property, then.
They need permission.
They need permission, and we need
Yeah.
it in writing. And those trees clearly look like town trees to me,
Yeah.
so we need a decision from the town as to what they want to do. I don't think we should be,
So,
having a general conversation about, if Tommy wants to let him cut them down, then that would be when, what we should do. Just to
Right,
decide on
well-
that.
our
Oh.
we,
What?
They're not in our jurisdiction.
They're pretty close to not in our jurisdiction. Pretty close to not in our jurisdiction.
yeah, they're pretty far.
Across the road, and the house is on the other side.
I have some photos too.
You should take a look at them.
Without any replacement with bushes
Well,
or
we have,
shrubs?
I'm not saying, I'm making no decision whatsoever. I'm saying that, right now, I'm saying the town trees.
But
Yeah,
what you
it's
said
these.
a couple of minutes ago was let Tom make the decision about whether he wants to take them down or not. No caveats, no replacement, no nothing. I think it has to be
Yeah.
known that if they come down, they should be replaced by something.
Where?
Right there, where you take the trees down, you can put bushes up. The bushes can go right between where the tree stumps are.
It's not like it's part of the wetland, though.
It's,
The purpose is replacement for the trees. That's part of what we indicate all the
So-
time, if
Yeah.
we agree to a
and
tree
we should
cutting.
change this application, but we don't ask for property owner permission on here to do this. I mean, obviously, it's a given, and usually it's the property owner that asks for it. But we've done it with that one on Paradise, the woman who asked for the, right, we caveat it and say, you need permission, but.
Since I've been on the board, we don't make decisions with one neighbor on another neighbor's property.
We just had that one right down the road from here, where the people wanted to be able to move the property line or something like that, so that it could accommodate their septic system, and we wouldn't talk to them until they had written
Right.
approval from their neighbor
Yeah.
that they were moving on to
Right,
that.
well, I mean, it sounds like it needs to go through the process to figure out if it's town trees anyways, but we gave the woman on Paradise Lane that approval before, so. Contingent upon, obviously, getting property owner permission to remove a tree, but.
Well, I don't know what the rest of you
You have some
feel.
agreement.
What?
You have some agreement.
Yeah,
Come back to us
come
when you
back
know.
to us when you get the specifics.
Okay.
Since we don't have the public hearings, can we go ahead and take care of the DOT thing?
Yep,
or-
yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that now. This was the last of those, well, we have a wetland bylaw letter permit application, but right, we can wait on that.
Continued.
All right.
How you doing, Bill?
Hi.
You can come up now if you want.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's it going, Bill?
So I saved what you sent me earlier, so just let me know what you would like up when.
Sure. Why don't we start, Rebecca, with the PDF, the first PDF?
First one, okay.
Please introduce yourself
Sure.
into the mic.
For the record, William Clarity from Mass DOT Highway Division.
I want to start the
You
tour.
don't want to start too.
Is this rain cloud following you around?
It is, apparently. This would be a good time to see if those culverts I designed were properly sized.
Tested.
So I'll just jump right in. This essentially is an old this is, well, I say an old plan, it's actually relatively new. They apparently resurfaced this section of the Mass Pike. The plan that I got this information from was dated in 2009, so essentially what I did is I took the plan and added just some current information. So if we could start, well, actually, it might be beneficial, actually, Rebecca, if you maybe jumped ahead to some of the photographs.
Okay.
Okay, this is on the plan that we just left. This is the area. This is an old metal pipe that was part of the infrastructure that was installed when the pike was built back in the mid-50s. And the construction commonly at the time was to use corrugated metal pipe. And the service life, depending upon what manufacturer's information you look at, has a service life of about 30 years. So a lot of the infrastructure in the pike, this section of the pike was probably built in the mid-50s. So a lot of these corrugated metal pipes are just simply failing. And I suspect that's what we have here. And again, what you're looking at is the top of that corrugated metal pipe that was obviously buried at one time. And my thoughts are either one or two things: either the bottom, the invert, or that is the bottom of the pipe, has failed, or a joint has pulled apart. So all of the water now that we're capturing at the top of the road is traveling through this pipe, and it's essentially undermining that area, creating that scour hole.
Now, is that, what distance is that collecting from on the road? I mean,
Well-
you don't have to be specific, but I mean.
Well, I think if we go back to that drawing.
Yeah,
So if you look at that area there, that little, down at the bottom towards Cedar Lake where I show that area there,
Yeah.
that I identify it as the scour hole.
Oh, Bill, you
right
get a
here.
pointer over there too, so you know. That little black, yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Unless we gave you the one that doesn't work.
try this out. Okay, look at that.
careful, don't hurt yourself.
I should say. Do I need special glasses to operate this? So anyway, so what I've shown here, again, all of this with the exception of what I've drawn in here, the scour hole, this is all, the topo and everything is all pre-existing. So what I'm showing here, again, if we can look at that area there, that's the scour hole that I'm referring to, that we just looked at. If we follow that drain line, I know it's maybe hard to see, but that, if you can see there's the, I'm actually going to read from my plan here. In line with that scour hole, it shows the old, well, I should say the existing 15-inch corrugated metal pipe. So it's essentially in line with that scour hole all the way to the roadway surface, and there are 3 drop inlets that feed that drain line.
Okay, that was, yeah.
So is that
What's the distance
these
between
three
them
right
normally?
here?
I'm sorry, the distance?
What's the distance between drop inlets normally on the pipe?
Well, it depends on the profile of the road. If
Yeah.
it's steeper, they're obviously closer together. So typically like 2 to 250 feet, depending upon the profile of the road.
Okay,
No,
Those
these-
stations are 100 feet apart, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's 250 feet, it looks like.
250.
Yeah.
Well, even less than that, actually, almost.
So
200.
we're actually not in a, and again, I don't want to get way off on a tangent, but we're not quite at the sag there. When I say the sag, I mean the low point of the road. I think the low point is further easterly the low point of the road. But it does again, that line does serve.
Keeps eroding, you'll be at the sag point pretty quick.
Yeah, but right now, like, as I say, it's the three basins above the sag.
Right here, these
Right.
three, yep.
Yeah.
And these ones go here, which comes down.
Right, so again, so what I've shown there, again, the scour hole, the approximate location, what I'm showing there, what we're proposing there was we're going to abandon that line. We're probably gonna leave the drain line in place because of the steepness of the.
What were you gonna abandon the one we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
And do what with it?
Okay, so, we're going to abandon, we'll probably plug it and leave it in place.
Okay.
The other option would be to try and rip that out, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense to expose that steep slope.
My personal opinion is that plugging it makes the problem worse, because now the water will go along both sides of that pipe and run down. But instead of plugging it, if we filled it with gravel, I think taking it out is a mistake because of the erosion problems
Yeah.
that it would create because of the steepness of the hill. But if you fill that with gravel, you're still going to get the water traveling through it. You're going to get a reduction in velocity, you're going to get a reduction in the fines coming out of the other end of the pipe.
Yeah, well, let me just finish on that, because I want to make sure we're on the same page. So when I say we're going to abandon that, we're going to replace it with something else at the top of the hill. So, that's what I'm showing, if you follow that same line at the very top. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be replacing that, rather than having that corrugated metal pipe go all the way to the bottom of the toe of the slope, which was the practice back when they built the pike rather. What we're going to do is we're going to come up with a very short section of plastic pipe, HDPE, high density polyethylene. That's what I'm showing at the very top of the hill, So so what I have, just as to show as an example, Rebecca, if you could go,
Yep, that photo.
kind of fast, go back to the photographs. And there's let's see, if you look at some of those photographs. Okay, this is taken, I know photograph is difficult to see because the location was difficult to get a good picture from. But what you're looking at is a different location in a different town along the pike. And that's a similar slope. It's a 2-to-1 slope. And what my thinking is, if you can see, I don't know if you can see can you see the riprap?
Yeah.
So probably what happened is this whole slope scoured. So they came in there and they replaced that, or rather on top of the scour, they placed this riprap. This heavy, it's actually the same stone that we use for pipe ends. So we're doing two things there. One is we filled that scour along the slope, and if you go to the next photograph, if you'll notice, and it's hard to see, but you can see the end of a pipe here. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially what I'm proposing at this location. So that's a HDPE pipe that's discharging along the slope, and it discharges on top of the stone. So rather than replacing that old corrugated metal pipe, which again was common practice back in the 50s to carry that pipe all the way down to the toe of slope, we're essentially daylighting it much further up the hill. And it's going to discharge onto that stone pad.
Okay, since I don't understand, I'm gonna ask a dumb question. I don't see the pipe.
It's hard to see. You can see it here. Ed, if you look.
It's right there.
Yep.
Can you see in the
Yeah.
picture better?
Oh, okay, that's the hole there?
Yeah.
Do you see it better here?
Well, I can see it both
Right there.
places now.
Okay.
You're telling me the hole's there, and that's where the pipe is
Right.
coming out, right there.
Right. It just daylights, if you will, is outside of the side of the slope.
Now, is that a solid pipe, perforated pipe? What is
It's
it?
a solid pipe.
Solid pipe? So it's just, that stone above is just covering it? It brings
That
it down
stone,
to that
and this,
point?
again, this is a different circumstance, but again, I think in this instance, I think the top of the slope scoured. So they placed the stone at the top, but below that pipe, there's also stone. So the water that comes out of that pipe discharges onto that stone, which dissipates the energy.
Is this stone here that I can't see?
I think that's just vegetation there.
Because, I mean, it looks like it's coming this direction,
Yeah,
which would be scouring this area if there was no stone.
yeah, well, I mean, clearly the intent is when we install a new pipe, the stone will be below,
Right.
the,
Okay.
the flare end is.
So
as we
now,
call it.
are you gonna dig up to pull out the pipe you said you were gonna just fill it, but
Right.
how do you get to the drain?
We are gonna remove that section of the old corrugated metal pipe
Okay, up at the top.
at the top.
Why don't we go back to that picture so we can be more specific, please?
Yeah.
No, the picture
Yeah,
of the pipe.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a way you can zoom into that area at the top of the hill? I'm talking about the plan, of course. Well,
This?
yeah, well, no, but that's fine. If we can all see that now. What we refer to as a flare end, which is the terminus of the new pipe that's currently in place there. And again, this is just an example of what we're proposing at our location. So if we want to go back to the plan,
Am I allowed to ask questions as well from Cedar Lake, or?
Yeah, because we're going along, I would think yes. Anybody have a problem with that? No?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, so just chime in.
But you have to announce who you are.
Yeah.
I'll consider it. How are you? Good. I'm Raul Ricard from 53 Beach Ave in Sturbridge. I'm part of the Cedar Lake Association, and a couple of our members here as well with us, including our SLAC representative. My first question was on the original pipe that we showed there. Was that pipe designed to dissipate into the land or flow directly into Cedar Lake when it was first done? Because it looks like it was designed to dissipate into the land, because there's a lot of smaller trap rock down there, which has
Yes.
been pushed into the lake. By the way.
that's exact. There's two things that are going on there. In fact, I have an old detail. Unfortunately, I didn't send it, Rebecca, to you electronically. But what you're seeing there, when I keep referring to a flare end, you see that little triangular shape there?
Yep.
That's the flare end. That's the terminus or the end of the existing pipe. So that's like a spreader. So the water comes through the pipe and it spreads out. So you're spreading out, so you're dissipating the energy. And probably what was there pre-existing there was a stone pad at the bottom, just on the downstream of that flare end.
So there was a stone pad. Now,
It probably was. Now, the other stone, Rebecca, I'm sorry to keep doing
No,
this
that's
to you,
fair.
but if you can go back to the photograph again, you'll see that stone.
Yeah.
Now, that stone, I wasn't actually quite sure of the source of that, because sometimes that stone they'll use as bedding material underneath pipes when they install drain pipes. They'll put stone underneath the pipe that you're installing as bedding. It provides strength. But in this instance, I think what happened there, and I did go back and look at some old pipe details, and again, this goes back to the 50s, because that slope was so steep, 2-to-1, the ground cover is actually the stone. And the reason they didn't put loam and seed there was because if you've got a slope greater than 2.5-to-1, in this case it's 2-to-1, it's difficult to get grass to grow because it's just too steep. So probably what they did, the practice at the time was to stabilize the soil in that area, was they just filled it with that stone. So that essentially was the cover over the pipe. And that's now what's actually looks like is washed into the pond.
And that's
or
now
lake.
covered over the flare end that's at the
Yes,
bottom.
it's buried.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
That picture is really good. We can see just the corner of Cedar Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got another sort of a funny aside for that, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was scaling that up and back and forth, that 2-to-1 slope, and I'm not in my prime anymore, but, and then, so we did some background, including with the help of Rebecca. Fortunately, there is an access which we met on site a few weeks back or a week back. So there's an access road, so there's a much easier access. this
We
area.
got something drenched in a yellow jacket, was that you?
Yeah, yeah. So we have a much easier access to get, you know, to get to this area and to address it.
So to be clear, you're thinking about removing how much of that pipe?
Well, again, if we can go back to the plan again, we're only talking about, and let's go to the top of the hill up by the road. And again, what I'm showing is right here is just a very short section of the new pipe, the plastic pipe.
Okay.
And what I'm showing there is the pad, the stone pad right here.
Great.
Can you zoom to that, Rebecca? So we'll be.
You can do everything with that computer.
Yeah, so we're gonna be removing that old section of metal pipe there and be replacing it with the plastic pipe. And again, daylighting it. I don't unfortunately have a cross-sectional view to make it more clear. That's why I provided those photographs. So that pipe will, again, it'll come out, and I keep using the expression daylight, but it'll just essentially come out of the slope and discharge or drain onto that stone pad. So that the benefit of that is now it'll drain obviously all the way down the hill, but it'll have the chance to infiltrate and, you know, work through the stone and the vegetation. So by the time it gets to the pond, it's pretty much dissipated. The flow is
But
dissipated.
then notice deceiving. It says abandon and plug.
Right, existing. Right, right.
So the existing pipe is going to have no parts of it removed.
No, my thoughts were just to remove that portion that we'd be replacing at the top of the hill, and anything below that, probably leave right in place.
And just to make a comment about that, I don't think we want to fill that with gravel because if we get any flow down through that, we're just going to end up, wherever this has failed in here, we're
Yeah.
just going to end up
You're gonna-
creating the issue all over again.
Right.
So I think we want to try to prevent any water from going down in
We'll
that.
probably put a masonry plug at the top of it, essentially sealing it. When I say the top of it, we'll cut it below where the new pipe will go, and then plug it there.
With cement or?
Yeah,
Bill, what about the pipe down by the lake?
You know, that we probably will, in the scour hole, because it's exposed, we'll probably cut that out of there, remove that old section of pipe.
And then fill
And
that?
then backfill it with borrow material and then stabilize the top of it, yeah.
Yeah.
When I say borrow, I mean gravel.
Yeah.
Bill?
And then stabilize the surface.
So going back up here with the splash pad that's gonna help dissipate it, how big is that gonna be? Because that is a really steep slope there, and there is just that kind of smaller stone going down.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be nice to see if they could put like seed in
Well, there's
motion
a,
control blanket or something that'll help vegetate that'll help with, one, controlling and infiltrating and, not having any more additional erosion issues going down that
yeah,
slope.
well,
Yeah, just to add to what Rebecca says, when we walk that steep slope, just walking up it, that land around there is eroding down pretty heavily as
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
walk through it. I mean, just by stepping on it, it's coming down, I'm not talking about right on top of where the pipe is, I'm talking about off to the side. So we're just nervous that, that's going to continue to erode. And obviously I want to know how that's going to get filled in and what the plan is to remove what has already gone into Cedar Lake at this point in time.
Right.
It's quite substantial, in my opinion.
That's the part of the problem that we haven't even addressed yet.
yeah.
I know.
But that is coming up.
Okay, so,
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to also discuss the eastern section of that, with that path. Could you bring that up? The tarred,
Oh, so this is well, you can't, it's right here. I
right here,
think.
yeah. See,
That comes down. So, right, I think that, well, first, we're talking about maybe like a phased approach to the issues in this area, but right, there's,
this,
kind of immediate,
we also consider this to be a problem. I mean, that's just a jet to the water. I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't have a riprap in there, slowing down the flow. And, detention pond maybe dropping some of the salt out of it. And silt.
Yeah, well, again, I think we have to stop the immediate problem. So if we could go back to that area, because that drain line is still active. And we're still capturing flow off the roadway, so it's still continuing to erode that scour hole.
Right.
So what we'd like to do, and I mentioned this briefly to the commission members that day out in the field, as well as to Rebecca, I'm calling it the first phase. First of all, we're actually, in this area, we're actually outside, we're beyond 100 feet from Cedar Pond. So if all of this hadn't occurred, we would have just gone ahead and done that maintenance work to stop the problem. And now I'm trying to coordinate with our contractor to get in there, again, because we want to stop the flow of water in that failed pipe. So I guess phase one is to get in there and to do that work. And we've got our contractor lined up to start that work next week. So the next phase, again, I don't have a straightforward answer to you. We've got to get in. We've got to stabilize that scour hole, I guess, after we've abandoned that pipe and blocked that pipe, and then I guess the next part of it will be we'll have to address, the scour hole and the material that's deposited in the lake. So that's sort of the second phase, which we're really still working on.
And right, I think when drawdown occurs, then you can get a consultant in there to look at
Yeah.
that and figure out what
Yeah,
was done. And then while they're there, though, they can look at that sluiceway that comes down on the other side here. That can be phase two is repairing that. Well, we can get the pipe fixed now, but there's probably a lot of sedimentation that's come down from here too. So we can look at that when drawdown's done and see what's done there. But I think, right, phase one, address the pipe, get that done. Bill, I was curious, are there any BMPs in the catch basin, anything, oil water separators or anything that DOT's talked about, or is that something?
There is not in that structure, so that's sort of an added benefit by having that stone pad, because it'll remove that sediment that comes out of those structures.
Well,
If-
not like oil or anything, but
No,
yeah.
no.
Is that something that, I know you guys get grants potentially to do? I think we have a project that's coming up, Route 20 and 84, where they're doing
Yes,
a lot
I
of
was-
drainage improvements.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's sort of the example. I just want to take a step back. This is really a maintenance problem. It's a maintenance problem. In order to do a lot of those upgrades, that would be something that we would do under a construction,
Yeah.
an advertised construction project, which is what we are doing in Sturbridge with those BMPs. I think to try to turn that, something like this repair, I hesitate from going in that direction, because we want to stop the problem. We
Right,
wanna- we
Yeah.
but
wanna-
maybe it can be something that,
That's really true. It
Add
is a
this to the
maintenance
list.
problem,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's also a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act, and it's a violation of the Sturbridge wetland bylaw. So it's multiple things. And we can work toward it as a maintenance problem, but we really need, we need some improvements. If we're gonna do this, we should be doing it better. We should be maintaining it better than it was.
In phase one, can you explain to us, Bill, how, once that pad is in place and the pipe is plugged, how the water is going to be able to make it, all right, my dumb idea about plugging it with gravel doesn't work, but my second concept was, if you did plug it, then the water's going to run down on both sides of that slope. How are you going to change that? All you're doing is putting a diverter up further on the hill, so it'll slow it down temporarily, but it is, as you very nicely pointed out, a 2-to-1 slope. And within 3 feet of where that is now, it's on a downhill angle. It's going to be picking up speed the whole bloody way.
Well, I think the intent is to spread out the flow. And so you're going to be taking advantage of the vegetation, the ground cover, the soils that you're going to infiltrate that flow.
But you see, the plan doesn't give us any indication about how wide or how big any of that area is that you're going to be making a change in.
Okay.
And I agree with you that it's a maintenance problem, but I'm disappointed that after 70 years, it's still a maintenance problem that hasn't been addressed. This is not something that was addressed 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago.
But it's being addressed now.
It's being addressed
Well,
now.
that's because we're just becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, is there a way to use, I see like on 84, you guys use a lot, those compost filter socks that, I mean, they last for a really long time. Is there a way to kind of put those on the contour coming down
Yeah, well, that's.
to help on top?
That's, well, that's what I'm showing there.
That one,
Is
that's
for
one?
part of the constructing that new section of pipe.
Do you think it, like putting a few
You mean this right
terrace-
here?
Yeah, yeah.
Like a few terrace down could be done, and that way we can.
I'm sure that we could,
Yeah.
yeah. But the other thing, Rebecca, if we could, and maybe to try to answer some of your questions you're at, there's another PDF in there, and
Yep.
it does have a detail of that pad. And the pad that again, this is a standard detail, and the pad that is sort of the bottom right there. So that's a standard detail of a typical pad that's, again, at the end which will be the end of the new pipe.
And there's mortar in there too?
That's a different variation. In this instance, it'll be stone. I'd rather leave it with a void space, because the voids within the stone capture the sediment.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we know, according to the plan, what's being done?
Well, that's not
If the plan indicates that that's what's being done, but you're saying that you don't want to fill it with mortar, for example, when you come back next year for phase 2, how do we know which one of these variations was used, since it's not on the plan that we're being asked to approve?
Well, this is still kind of preliminary, right? You were saying that you can
Right.
give us a final one that maybe has the
Right, but-
details changed on it?
Right, but I guess my point is, see,
Didn't hear that.
there's two different variations here. One where they indicate where they fill the voids with mortar. And what we do more commonly now is we don't do that, is we put it with the proper size stone that will stay in place. You saw from that photograph, those photographs. So the benefit of that is you're leaving that opening within the void space within the stone, so it captures the sediment.
But will we have a plan that shows the dimensional characteristics of that? Or will we have this generic plan?
Well, I can provide you with our specifications for the size of stone that's recommended. We have a standard spec that I can provide that.
And the length and width? We ask all the applicants to provide us with a plan, and the plan has to be specific. It can't be, well, we have a different variation from the one that's on the plan, because you're not getting any younger, we're not getting any younger, and 5 years from now, somebody comes back and says, but that says they're supposed to be filled with concrete, you
Yeah.
guys didn't do that.
Well, I guess the point is with these details, these are like standard details that for a number of different scenarios. And in this instance, there's two scenarios. There's one in which they talk about filling the void space with the mortar. But the other variation is to not fill the void space, because the benefit is, again, at the risk of repeating myself, you leave that void space open.
But is it on that plan?
You should have brought the other plan.
I do have another variation. I can provide that,
Well,
As an
that gives a
electronic.
little bit of certainty to us.
To David's question, what's the length and width of the what you're
Splash
calling?
pad?
Yeah,
Pad.
if you scroll to the left, actually, you'll see that, I'm sorry, let's go back.
shows 5
So
feet.
it shows, we're gonna have a minimum of 5 feet that's going to extend beyond the end of the flare end. It's gonna be,
5 by 10?
yeah, and I think I
It
actually,
doesn't say that.
Well, it's got the 5 here.
yeah, and if we go back to the left, you'll see there's a table. Now, we're replacing, let's see, we're replacing,
15
okay, there we go. So there's the detail, there's sort of the cross-section. And depending upon the size of the pipe, in this case, it's gonna be an 18-inch pipe. From that chart, you can calculate what that width of that will be.
So it'd be 7.5 by 15, is that what you're?
Let's see, I don't have that information to have, but let's see, so it's,
Height
I
and
can't read
length.
it, so it's, I can't read it.
Well, this says dimensions in inches.
Yeah, so the,
Oh.
if you look at the column on the left, you see an 18-inch diameter pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we look at dimension W, which it looks to me is 35, which I would round that to be 36. So that's 36 divided by 2, that's 18, so that's 1.5 feet, so that's 2.5 feet, so yes, so it's a 5-foot wide pad, side to side.
36.
How'd you get that out of that?
These are just the dimensions here, up here. So the width W is 30.
Yeah.
30
Right, but if we look at this
That's
detail,
35 inches.
7.5.
inches.
But this is,
No,
this
what-
is just the flare end. That's not the pad.
And and the flare, the A is 7.5 inches.
Right. That's just this
So that's
little.
15,
That's just this
15
little
and
dimension.
35 is 50 inches.
That's just for the outlet.
That's just the outlet.
Yeah.
Just the
Had
outlet.
nothing
That's
to
not
do
the
with
gravel.
the, no,
Sides.
had nothing to
Right.
do
yeah,
with.
so.
Then you have the stone
So
pad.
all this is really showing, I'm trying not to complicate it here, but that's the dimensions of the flare end. So that dimension W is right here.
Right.
So I'm just rounded off to 36. So that's 36 inches. So 36 divided by 2 is 18. And 18 plus a foot, so that's 2.5 feet aside. So the total width of this will be 5 feet.
Yeah.
Is there a way that, I mean, if it seems that that's sufficient for now, it's gonna get installed right away, that it's monitored, and if it's not sufficient, then we do something to stabilize the slope? Because like that other picture, where the one that you used as an example that looked like it failed, so if I zoom out, I mean, you can see this is a pretty steep slope, but they vegetated it. I mean, it would be really nice to see that done in this area too, and I think that that could help with the risk of erosion in the future on that slope.
Yeah, I'd also, I get the area that you're proposing, but that's still a very steep pitch. I don't know if that's gonna just, go with it and.
Yeah,
and-
well, I mean, that's.
That one seems to go much down further than 5 feet. If you look at the trap on that picture,
Right.
that's going down a good, I guess, 10, 12 feet down, which would seem more
Yeah,
appropriate for the pitch, but I'm not,
I agree, and
Well, I mean, the stone could be carried down.
yeah.
it should be.
What I
I mean,
show-
really, the 5 feet isn't
Yeah,
what it really.
what I showed you was sort of the minimum recommended.
Right.
And the other thing I'm a little bit reluctant in saying too, is I think that slope should be armored with stone as opposed to vegetation, again, because it's too steep
I agree.
Yeah.
for vegetation. So we can certainly continue that pad. We can certainly carry that pad further down that slope.
Okay, and maybe when you do the work down here, the restoration down here, this could be revegetated, like the rest of the area, they could,
Well, again, I hesitate from saying revegetating. Again, there's really, in terms of vegetation, I think there may be some scrub vegetation, but I think a lot of what we saw in that photograph was that stone. So I think the reason it was so steep is why they originally placed the stone there,
Yeah.
as opposed to loam and seed. It's just too steep for,
agree.
it's just too steep for loam and seed.
I think the loam is gonna wash out.
You can see that I'm having a
Something
problem
here.
with this, and the problem I'm having with it is if I were a potential contractor, hearing the presentation that you gave tonight, I would have no idea what I was gonna start doing next week. Because the length, the width, and the depth, and the size of the stone is not determined by that plan. We don't know what the width is gonna be. We don't know how much dredging you're gonna have to do, how much digging you're gonna have to do. We don't have a clue about a whole bunch of details, and yet you have a contractor lined up. So you must have some kind of a production plan for the contractor, and what we're asking is exactly what did you tell the contractor to do, because that's what's gonna get done. That's what we're gonna see as the final product, and that's what the Lakes Association is attempting to understand. Then in phase two, you have a whole separate amount of things that you're going to be doing. But for now, I don't understand what the contractor is going to start doing next week, except he's going to put in that new structure.
He's going to put it, again, I want to back up. This was a very preliminary. We've been trying to work out these details. And again, what we're trying to do is address, we're trying to eliminate the flow from going into that failed corrugated metal pipe. That's job one. The other details, you know, we've had this discussion. We talked about having a separate phase. I'm just not prepared to respond to those questions, but that's something that we will be working out. But right now, we just simply need to get in there and repair, you know, abandon that pipe, because that's the source of the problem. You've got that water that's running through that pipe, and probably after this rain event we've had, I'm sure there's much more scour there right now.
So, if I may. So, you're going to start the scouring higher on the hill if you don't put that stone pad down there, and if you don't put some like 8 to 10 or 6 to 10 stone all the way down that hill. Because it's all going to come down. It's going to start up higher. It's not necessarily going to be part of it coming down the pipe and part of it undermining the pipe, and it's just all going to just be dumping right down the side of that hill.
We may need to armor that, you know, further down the slope.
Yeah, just to give us a little bit of peace of mind when we leave here tonight, and we're not saying, what the hell did we just agree to? Write something down and send it to Becky, if you would, if I may suggest that, Mr. Chairman. So you say, we're gonna armor the downslope and monitor it. And if we run it down 20 feet and you decide that it's still eroding past that, you put it down more and send something to her and that we can look at, and she could look at it before those guys come down there and start working. Once they start working and they say, well, we understood. I have been here many times. Working with Mass Highway in the Western region, I was deputy director for the Department of Environmental Protection for 10 years. I cannot tell you how many times somebody had an understanding of what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden we get out there and that's different. And we say, well, that's what the contractor did. And you call the contractor and you say, you were supposed to do such and such. Nope, here's the plan we had. This is an order, this is an enforcement order. So this is a little different than the plans that used to come before me at DEP. This is an enforcement order, and we're saying that we're taking enforcement against this issue. We're taking enforcement for this issue, and we haven't seen anything that is going to satisfy our enforcement order. So, and you know, and it's, I'm just one person on this commission, but I would say that we need something based on the discussions that we've had. And I like the basic idea. And I'm picturing in my mind what you're going to do, and it'll work, because I've seen it. And I've seen exactly this situation, and I've seen it work. With these old failed pipes, replacing it with a long stretch of stone, it works. I've seen it. I have no problem with that. But that's in my mind, because that's what I've seen in the past. But we don't have anything that says we're going to go 8 feet wide, because it's really got to be dispersed, as you well know. You're dropping it almost straight down. It's got to be dispersed widely. It's got to be dispersed with large stone. And a rain like tonight, the side streets were all flooding. The drains were backed up. So anyway, that's, I don't want to repeat myself.
I think we're in agreement, aren't we? Yep. To that point. I think the thing that we need to add is that this is an emergency repair. This is not a final repair.
That's,
And that we are going to need to see, and I think we need to be told it, that you are going to go in during drawdown and clean out the damage that's been done.
No, maybe drawdown, he has to have a phase 2 plan for us.
That's what, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's what, within a letter to us telling us that he is going to do it, to clean it out and during drawdown. You know, to some extent, come to us with a plan and execute a plan to do that,
I have,
to mitigate the damage.
I have one final question
ahead,
too.
yeah.
Bill, so the section of the pipe that you're replacing is right in here, correct?
Yes.
So, what are you doing to validate the integrity of the pipe that's still, I'm assuming you're not replacing any of this, so, how are you validating that that is,
That's a good question.
Well, that's RCP. So, you know, again, actually, I've been out looking at the structure, couldn't actually see the RCP pipe. But, you know, just based on the material, you know, it's more durable. It's a concrete RCP. It's probably in good condition. Unlike, you know, the discussion we had earlier when I talked about the corrugated metal pipe that has a service life of about 30 years.
right? What's the service life of this stuff? Any?
Well, I mean, corrugated pipe, I guess it all depends on what information you look at, but we run into, you know, RCP pipe that's 100 years old. It's still intact.
Okay.
But to his question, how do you confirm that, that there isn't a seam that's leaking or a break or some other facet that's,
That could be. There could be. There could be, but again, I think the problem is at this location, where the scour hole is, with the older corrugated metal pipe, because we see that failing. It's very common. It commonly fails.
okay.
And we know that there's a lot of this material along the pike.
Lakes Association had another comment.
I think that's enough comments.
Nice.
Long answer. I just had one question. You're talking about maybe going down with more trap stone down the hill. What is actually going to happen to the scoured area that's there right now? Because that is gullying out further and further, even with normal water coming down off the new pipe and bringing it into the lake. So that's at least got to be filled as part of this emergency.
According to
So,
what
I just-
Steve defined, that would be filled as a part of this emergency.
And
Right.
Bill mentioned that it was gonna be filled.
Right.
So it is almost strap rock coming all the way down right up until that filled area, the way I would see it, because you're talking about what's the
Right.
distance between the scoured area and where the pipe ends coming out of there. It's not,
Yeah, it's,
Right, how do you ensure that that fill
I'm just
is
trying
gonna
to,
stay
I agree
stable?
with the emergency tactic wholeheartedly. We want to stop additional silt and soil going into to the end of the pond.
Right.
And anything that's done now should be done now before the winter season hits and all the spring runoff and everything else. So we agree with that. I just want to at least minimize more silt going into the lake at this point, because it's a big problem.
the good part of that, in terms of the nature of the material that's there, it's a gravelly material and it's a stone material, so there isn't a lot of fines in terms of siltation. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at least in terms of the nature of the material, you're not getting, if we can stop the source, like, again, if we can stop the water from going into that, defective pipe, I think that's going to eliminate that problem right away.
Yeah.
Because again, the nature of that material it isn't like a silty material that continues to erode and wash into the lake.
But is the scour hole going to be filled
It
at
will-
this
yes.
time?
Yes.
At this time?
We could do that, yes.
Okay, but we
But
haven't
I've gotta-
heard that yet.
But I've got to come up with actually a proposal on how to do that. But I think it's pretty straightforward. I think we're going to backfill it with borrow material and probably have a similar treatment as it's there now. We'll probably just use the same stone that's there to use it because it's worked, up until the failure. It's apparently worked right along. So I guess, again, just shooting from the hip, it looks like we'll fill that hole with borrow material. When I say borrow material, I simply mean a gravel material. And then we'll probably scoop back the stone that's washed away and use that as the ground cover.
Will it be material that is clean?
It's the stuff that's there
That's the
now.
stuff that's there now, yeah.
He's talking about adding more stuff. to what's there now.
Yeah, there'll be,
Will that be
if we
clean?
bring in gravel, it'll be clean, it'll be clean
It'll be
material.
washed gravel as opposed to gravel that has lots of fines in it.
Yeah,
Because the
there-
fines will find their way into Cedar Lake.
yeah, there actually is a material spec that talks about the gradation of the gravel, so it'll be to that spec.
And that spec includes no
Probably won't-
fines?
Probably won't be gravel. I mean, to use the correct term, it's gonna be a graded stone. Gravel is banking, and it's got all kinds of stuff.
I'm asking the engineer who's gonna be giving a contract to the contractor.
Okay.
And I'm not hearing the same words that you're using.
Well, again, we do have specifications for our materials. And it'll be the same material that we would use to backfill a trench, for example. And the surface will be, again, we'll probably use that same stone that's washed away to stabilize the top of that surface.
That makes
Well,
sense.
I have a problem with that, because what is there washed away. And it's included with that, if you do a pullback, you're gonna be taking every sanding job that has been washed in there for the last 75 years of road sand. So I'd like a plan to pull that back, but I'd like that to be separate from the emergency plan that we have here. I don't agree with you. I'm not comfortable with what that material is.
Why don't I do this? Why don't I get a spec? I'll get a standard spec, and I can provide that standard spec.
That would be okay with me.
As long as we get the scour hole taken care of at the same time, I think you're right.
Yeah, because it's
It
exposed,
it contributes
exposed dirt and
directly to the
everything right there.
plume in Cedar Lake.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, there won't be any more water coming down there.
Right.
I mean, that's,
That's the theory.
So are we at a point here?
Right, I guess I was gonna summarize, so we'll get
I'm gonna
a,
faint anyway with this heat.
we can get a work plan that kind of clearly describes each area, what you're gonna do in the scour hole area, how you'll access that, because I think, right, the work up by the road, you can probably do this from the highway,
That's-
so you won't
that's-
need to come
the-
through.
that's
So
the
maybe we
intent.
can just clearly define that, how you can do the work up there, when that's proposed, how big the trap rock and spacing, et cetera, so it's clear. And then down here, get the additional information and put a plan together for that. Now, if that can't happen next week when you fix this up here, the top part,
Yeah.
I think that you need to get something in place to
Yeah.
protect this hole now, get some, wattle, silt fence, whatever it is, above and below it, because once we're directing it here, if this is still open, I mean, there might be a way to divert it around with one of those compost socks or something like that, but also to get something underneath it. So if you guys aren't gonna fix that next week, something up for sedimentation control
yeah. No,
immediately.
I appreciate the concern. But I think it's just so critical that we get in.
Oh, no, I
We have-
agree.
we have-
I
we have-
agree. But
we
I
have
think,
so
right,
much-
if,
So much drainage work, and
Yeah.
we're pulling this contractor off of another job to get this work done.
Yeah.
So we can't delay, because that is the source of the problem, is that water running through that failed pipe.
But your timing was good, because weather's supposed to be good next week.
Yeah, it is.
and then, I mean, also too, just kind of in the order we outlined, other areas that, these paved sluiceways that are deteriorating, that, one of them, especially the one right here, this one definitely needs some maintenance. I don't know how often they go out and inspect these things, but it looks like it's been failed for a little while, all of them. We'd like to see that as maybe another phase of the maintenance of this area, and I'd be happy to bring someone out there and show them those things, because there's definitely some erosion issues on those. I mean, there's areas where a lot of stone and fallen trees have filled it in, which is actually kind of nice, because that slows the velocity of the water down. I mean, it would be great to see some future improvement if you guys have those grant type of things to maybe remove those, and do something that could be an improvement there too. But at least if we can fix those cracks that are, water's getting underneath and it's kind of undermining, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think from the association's perspective, we definitely want those looked at. Even the way those drainage were put together, as you said, probably in the 50s, those are straight shots right from the pipe on the highway right into the water. It's
Yeah.
actually got a gully that
I mean, in
is
this
supposed to
one,
take it down. Now, the gullies are falling apart.
this one
And
goes
the
pretty
asphalt's
far back.
been ripped
Yeah.
off it,
Yeah.
that's going into the lake as well.
Right, it goes
So we
here
got
to this
a lot of
pipe.
problems
Yeah,
over and above the immediate emergency problem, in my
And
opinion.
that was all before the regs would not allow a straight shot into.
I'm sorry?
That was all before the regs were written that protect the lake for
Right.
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Now,
I-
as Bill
I agree,
well
but
knows.
it's in such disrepair at this point, something has to be done.
Sure.
But it
Oh, absolutely.
should be done up to current standards.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole area should be looked at appropriately.
See, I think the mindset back in the 50s when this was designed was to put everything into a closed system.
Yep.
And now we've sort of reversed 180 degrees, and that's part of the reason for daylighting, you know, what I'm proposing.
Right.
A lot of the BMPs you see daylight the
Exactly.
flow.
Very
So
good.
you get infiltration, you get, you know,
Yeah, this is a great idea.
yeah.
I like it, and I've seen it work.
Yeah.
We're gonna-
and then, right, so when we came in, so this is where the gate is where we walked in. You can see there's the pipes that come here. There seems like there's a lot of erosion here. This is that small pond there. But we went on the other side of the pike here, and in this area where this fence is, there's these basins here. We went up and looked at that, but it doesn't look like anyone's done any maintenance on those. I mean, I think it's a great idea how they did the basins and the overflow eventually makes it to the river, but it looks like it's probably filled up with sediment a lot. I didn't know if this area could be kind of, the maintenance guys could take a look at it and, I mean, probably clean this out would be a big improvement too. It might actually function better. I mean, I haven't seen it with water in it. It was dry when we were there, but it looks like it's pretty filled in. There's some pretty big trees growing in there, 5, 6
Yeah.
inch trees or so.
Just
that-
trees inside there.
Yeah, so I don't know if that can be put on a maintenance schedule and have that looked at too. Cause that ends up in Cedar Lake too, so.
So will there be a formal review in a phase 2 as part of this project? Because
Yes,
there's,
there will be. In
I mean,
fact,
the
that was
ultimate,
my
the
next-
ultimate concern that we have as well is how much silt and residue has flowed into Cedar Lake. And we've had complaints from residents for the last 10 years that the water level's gone down and down and down in the end of the lake. We have some benchmark numbers that were done by a survey in 1985 with depths down at the end of the lake. You know, Rebecca and I have talked about whether an independent survey should be done as to what that depth of that water is right now, specifically in that north part. In
Yeah.
other words, how much residue has come in, how much is it built up with sand and residue, and also this additional overflow.
Right.
So to me, that's the protection of the lake and the water source, and the degradation of that end of the lake has to be looked at as the final step of this. And whether additional has to be dredged out or whatever, I don't know, but that should be a factor in the discussion for phase 2. Not for phase 1, we gotta get this stuff done, but it's gotta be part of that second recommendation.
I agree with you. I think everybody here does too. I think that, go ahead.
I'm Suzanne Brozek, 2 Kabinski.
You have-
Drive. Oh. You can't hear me?
We can, people on television can't.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that. Yeah, I'm Suzanne Brozek at 2 Kabinski Drive. I'm the president of the Cedar Lake Association. I just wanted to make 2 comments. One is that we have seen in the annual water testing that we do have high salt down in that area of the lake. And the second thing is I just want to bring sensitivity to the dates because it was mention of going to take a look at how much silt in that there was after drawdown. After drawdown is like after November 1st. So we don't have a lot of time between drawdown and when everything kind of freezes over. Once everything freezes over, you know, we shut the dam down so that it starts to fill up again, if you will, as the ice melts and the lake comes back up. So I just, you know, if there's anything that needs to be modified as a result of that in order to facilitate, you know, or support the work that's getting done specifically with phase 2, you know, we'd certainly be willing to talk about that because you're looking at about 3 weeks maybe, you know, before everything's sort of iced over and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, you're not gonna get a permit from the feds and the state to dredge then into that lake. I'm caught.
there's going to be a lot more time involved in getting where we
Yeah,
want to
you,
go.
you need an Army
I think
Corps.
what you say has total logic, but
Absolutely.
doesn't necessarily work in a logical way.
Speaking facetiously, just so that we can end this with a little bit of humor, what you suggested probably would be in violation of the Wetland Protection Act, not because of all the reasons that make sense, but because you'd be disturbing the carp habitat when you move the mud.
Listen, I just see dirt flowing into the lake. That's all I'm looking at. You know what I mean? So
I'm with you.
And I need to stop it. And
I got it.
Bill, could you, as a part of this process, could you come back at our next meeting and give us an update on what's happened?
I will evaluate it, and I don't know if I can guarantee I'll be back by next meeting. I do hope that by next meeting, we will have had that work done at the top of the hill.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You realize that you are in violation, and that we can start fining you on a daily basis. I mean, that's, that makes no sense with the state, but I mean, we need you to get back to us.
It's not that I'm having any reservation about coming back to the next meeting, but there is some engineering and some planning I'm gonna have to do in order to address some of the longer-term corrective actions, so.
Well, it doesn't have to be that you're finalized on your longer term, just that you can report to us on what you have done, and what is there at that time.
Okay. Well, hopefully that work at the top of the hill will be done by the next meeting.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And why don't I coordinate with Rebecca on that?
Right. Okay, great.
Sounds good.
So we'll expect a kind of more detailed work plan, kind of addressing how you're gonna move forward and some of those specs, pretty soon.
But again, my concern is with the process. We want to move
Yeah.
forward.
Yep.
I mean, that work
Yep.
technically is outside of the buffer zone. We'd like to just get in there and
We
get
have a
that.
500-foot buffer zone in the town of Sturbridge for that slope. So you are not outside of the buffer zone.
Because
for
there
any
is
of
a
the
slope
work.
bylaw.
I repeat, you are not outside of the buffer zone for any of the work.
Okay, we're
500
actually, we're
feet.
not subject to local bylaw, but that's a
Well,
topic.
that may very well be.
Topic for another discussion.
Right.
Well, the fact that they're doing it is
Yeah, no,
awesome.
I'm.
That's what counts.
No, it's great, I'm not saying that, but.
Right.
Any other comments from the Lake Association?
this time.
Bill, last chance.
Last chance?
Any other comment?
No. No.
Thank you very much
I don't want to
for,
get myself in any.
That was really good.
Thank you for coming in.
thank you.
Really appreciate it.
You did well.
Thanks for your help,
Thanks,
guys.
Bill.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support. I appreciated that.
Absolutely.
Becky, you'll keep the Lake
I
Association.
can't believe that you sat through this whole thing and never said boo. This is so disappointing. It did, I'll bet.
Everything was said.
Why speak when you can smile?
I think
Thanks a lot, Lee.
I know you, that's a rarity, but I'm learning to
Oh, I don't believe that for a second.
He's only saying that because he never has.
You're right.
Thank you.
Good night.
I gotta hobble over.
Beck, what's next?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Shift gears here.
What?
You're rushing me.
Oh, can I grab a glass of water?
Yes. Let's watch out for my cords here.
What a night, huh?
Boy, were you out there in that mess? The roads were like water flowing on them. Hey, thanks a lot for coming in. Nice job.
Thank you.
Yep, take care.
Oh, that's a good idea. My cheeks bright red already?
Yeah, can we just turn the thermostat down or something, or? is
I think
this-
they shut it off. Cindy said she shut it off.
You don't have to throw that away. Oh,
Don't fall down there. That's a long drop.
Cheer.
ooh, well, I hope I don't hear from the western region.
That's ancient history, Steve. Come on.
Well, that was ancient history that had to be said as a way of warning them. Can we drink cold beer in here? Probably not.
I wish.
That does feel better.
What you got in
A
there?
little bit anyway. God, it was so hot, I thought Ashley was gonna go to sleep.
Oh.
Well, that was fun.
All right, we have a letter permit in front of us. So this is 16 Audubon Way. We have, is it Honeybrook or something behind there? So it's riverfront. There's priority habitat outside of the project area. So this project, it's a small project. They had filed in 2014 an RDA and received approval to do putting in some boulders, some landscape planting, a walkway, and a fire pit in their yard. They received approval for it. She contacted just to touch base. They didn't finish the project. Their permit from us expired, so I just told her to send in a letter permit to finish the project, just so we had something on record. Very small amount of work that needs to be done that's left. So this area, they put these boulders in as part of the project, and these ones here, they're putting a walkway coming down here into the back. There's going to be a fire pit over here. So this is the driveway, the house, walkway that's going to come down here, fire pit. There's some additional plantings. They had to put in, as part of the project, they put in a dry well for the gutters off the house. They did do that. So I just told her to do a letter permit because you already did approve this through the RDA process, and the bulk of the work that probably triggered the RDA has been done, but it's still some work, and it's riverfront, and it's right there. I mean, I don't have any concerns with it. One thing I noted when I was out there is that down here you can see the old silt fence still there, so I was going to recommend that that comes out. I don't think that what they're going to do is going to generate any erosion, so I don't think they need anything else in place.
Is the RDA sufficient for riverfront, though?
Well, it was existing yard, and I think that,
Oh, so previously disturbed? then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I think I forget exactly what the determination,
Yeah, they came back. Yeah,
yeah.
to do put the bollards in.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys gave it a negative determination that it wouldn't, it's in an area subject to the act, but won't remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, they didn't have to file an NOI.
Okay.
I don't have any concerns with it, but technically it's not exempt under the local bylaw, so
So what are you asking?
approved project. I recommend you approve this under the wetland bylaw.
Under the local bylaw.
Under the local bylaw?
Yes,
Make a motion that we approve it under the
With a
local
letter
bylaw
permit?
yes.
With
Second.
that plan.
Okay. Just as that plan is?
And the date of the plan, Becky? Just so that Ashley can put it down on the notes, please?
I don't think her sketch is dated, but I can do the date of the application.
Or the date that it was sent to you.
Right, yep, and that's probably the same day as it was sent to me. It's the date of the application, so.
Okay.
Okay, 9/26,
9/26.
9/26 of,
2018.
It's, motion's been made, seconded.
Seconded, any discussion? All in favor?
Nicely done.
Right. We have one item left on our agenda, but I would like to schedule our next meeting dates if we can do that, just so I don't forget.
All right.
Because we don't have anything scheduled for November or December. So with that in mind, we need to set up the public hearing for our regulation revisions. Would that be separate from one of our meetings? Or
Yes.
would that be in place of one of our meetings?
Oh,
Because I'm thinking if we have one more meeting in October on the 16th, I'd like to present a final draft version at that meeting that we can then present to Board of Selectmen. And then we can start publicizing our public hearing, but we need a couple weeks to publicize that, I believe. So that brings us to November. But we don't have any dates in November for our meetings.
the first
Now-
is the third,
So the first
is 6th.
Tuesday is 6th,
the sixth.
which is voting day. I don't know if anyone has concerns about having our meeting
Probably not a
on
good
voting
idea.
day.
Probably not a good idea.
Why not? The polls close at 8.
When are you thinking about having our hearing?
Oh, I don't think we could have the hearing on that day.
Yeah, we won't be ready to have that
No, it's just
hearing
our regular
then.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry, I thought we were talking about the hearing.
No.
I was kind of talking about both, but to think about that
Yeah,
as we plan these dates.
So our next meeting will be, our November meeting will be the 6th of November. Anybody have a problem with that? I mean, if you work in a booth or candidate or anything like that? Ashley, you running for anything?
No, but let me double check.
Okay.
Do we want to have 2 regularly scheduled meetings in November? Because the next one would be the 20th.
That may be a problem for me.
Okay.
It's
I'm,
before Thanksgiving.
Well, you want to do just one on the 13th?
Thanksgiving is that week.
well, see, that's the
It's
problem.
Thanksgiving week.
So the problem if we stay with Tuesdays, if, as we think about this moving forward, is that we
Go ahead.
can't, the other Tuesdays are planning board. So that's something that we can discuss. If we want to keep the meetings on Tuesday or go back to Thursday also, it does make it harder to switch your meeting days if you keep it on Tuesday because we're alternating with planning board. So,
I see, so we can't do it on the 15th because.
Well, then we'll just have one meeting in November.
That's not going to work, Ed. We do the one meeting in the summertime, and when we come back, we have meetings that go until 10:30 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
another
well,
option, I can,
That's a possibility, but I mean, if you look at tonight's agenda, we haven't even got a new,
Yeah, but it would be
we
much
have 5
longer.
new ones on for next week.
We
so,
do?
Yeah, 4
Okay,
or 5,
all right.
plus a couple other
And we
ones,
had
so-
Downey Road, which
so we,
is easily
so
going to be
then,
an hour.
so then we do 6 and 20, and that,
We can do that.
but Steve can't make it.
I'm fairly certain I may be gone that week.
Thanksgiving
Yeah.
week.
But that doesn't mean we can't have a meeting that week, so.
What? Yeah.
Or,
If everyone else is gonna be here.
right, it's just one person, but,
Let-
or,
Well, let's put it down as.
6 and 20?
David, can you make it?
Yeah.
okay, 6 and 20
Steve?
for
Yeah,
November.
I can be here.
All right.
All right, now we also will have to do a separate day for our public hearing. Do we want to try to do that maybe the week after Thanksgiving and do it on a different night? Do you want to do it during the day?
So what does anybody have any input there? November 6th, November 20th.
We could do it in December.
Now, if we're gonna do it here, we have to do it when we have the place, right?
Yep, good point.
This is a hazard if you do it here, because we can be accused of not wanting people to come to it because of the parking issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's do it
If you get
across.
more than 5 people to come, they're walking all the way from the other side of the street.
So why don't we tell Becky to get us a date over there?
Maybe on a different, it has to be on a
Yeah, like
different
in the
night.
first week in December?
Or,
That works for me.
all right, well, we would, so we need to figure out our meetings for December too. It would have been the 4th and the 18th. I don't know why I scribbled it out, but.
Should we not be considering this alongside of the Board of Selectmen? Maybe they would like to have it at the same time as one of their meetings.
No, this is our meeting.
Our hearing.
It's our game.
Okay.
They come to it if they wanna go. That's the way I look at it.
Right.
Fine.
Last year in December, we did one meeting in December.
Yeah.
Do you want to try to do 2 meetings in December? Our normal meetings would be the 4th and the 18th if we continue with the Tuesdays.
What I would like to do is to schedule the 4th and the 18th, and on the 4th, if it doesn't look like the agenda is filling up for the 18th, then move on to the January meeting, which we can also establish tonight. Because the January meeting should not be the 2nd. Hang on, let's look at what the January meeting would look like.
It will be the
New
first
Year's
and
Day,
the
so there would be
15th.
no. So we could do the 15th.
So we go to the second week.
We can't because planning has it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if it's easier for people, I mean, I have no concerns with going back to Thursdays. It's up to you guys. It's,
Why don't we go to Thursday for one of the meetings, like have it on the 4th of January, and then have it on the second Tuesday again, and forever on Tuesdays after that? So it'd be like the 4th and the 16th?
If it's a Thursday, it'd be the 3rd of January.
I don't know.
Oops, sorry.
It's okay.
I maybe
You
have the
say,
wrong
Steve?
year.
Steve, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said if it was in the first week in January on a Thursday, it would be the 3rd. not
Third.
the 4th.
how about we, this whole Tuesday night thing's gonna get reevaluated by the Board of Selectmen sometime in December is what I've been told, I believe.
Oh, yeah?
Do we wanna wait for our January ones and just wait a month to figure out the January
We
ones?
can change the January one in
No.
December if the Board of Selectmen has done something with Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Is there any reason why we have to set it now?
I don't think we have to.
I vote, I say we just wait.
Okay, let's see how this
Alright.
works out, because,
Yeah.
like I said, it's easier to move back to Thursdays. I don't have a
Alright, we
problem
got-
with
yeah.
that. But we didn't set up our public hearing date. I guess I would want to maybe just propose, if we have to go to our next meeting and I can present our final revisions, you guys can vote on it, then we move forward with that. I can then get that to Board of Selectmen, I think probably for the 22nd maybe. And then we need to advertise for a couple weeks, so we'll need 1, 2.
But do we need the Board of Selectmen again? What-
No, but we
as an
talked about sending
individual?
them a letter, just
Send them a
sending
letter, yeah.
Yep,
Well, yeah,
Yep.
as soon as it's available, we would send it to them so they have it. And then, and tell them the date that we're going to meet on.
yep, and then at the same time, I need to post a legal ad, et cetera, so I gotta get that in by a certain time, so I don't wanna make it too tight of a time frame, but I don't wanna push our public hearing into December either, because I think that makes it hard. I
Yeah,
mean, there is an extra week in November, the last week after Thanksgiving. If you wanted to, we could do a public hearing
Why
that
not?
week on
That'd
a
be
fine.
different
Steve,
night,
You can get- yeah.
Wednesday or
Steve,
Thursday.
sorry.
Yeah, but we'd have, and
Over
David's
there?
point, we do it over there.
Yeah.
Get a date over there.
I mean, I think that definitely gives us enough time to make sure that I can keep that moving forward while doing every other project things too, so,
Right.
all right, so you
You have other stuff to do?
guys keep me busy. So tentatively, we can shoot for like maybe November 28th or 29th.
Of November?
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, and we'll find out if that's available, it should be. And then we'll do the proper advertising for that.
Good.
that was an interesting letter from KP Law that you sent around. They've really set the bar extremely high for notes on those work groups,
Oh, yeah,
work sessions, I mean.
yeah,
She
so.
needs a raise if she's gonna do that. At least more hours.
Yeah,
I know. Are we,
I'm a proponent for that, but,
That's something we
so, right,
should-
we have guidance from them on how to move forward with addressing those minute issues. We'll take care of that. My plan is that we'll do that, present that to you at our next meeting, so that way we can, have those approved and available for the public, for the working sessions. But then we also printed out the comments from the last email that I sent that we didn't have
Yeah.
last time, so I thought we could kind of go through these real quick. I think that we're in a pretty good place with the revisions we talked about from the last meeting.
Yeah.
It's consistent with what they're saying, but we can go through them.
all right,
So her comments are obviously the red lined.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I agree with her that each scenario is different,
Yep.
so therefore, and I recommend treating it as we feel that scenario needs to be treated. I know you don't really want to say that in the thing, but I don't think unpermitted work should be considered one violation.
Right.
If they do damage that is major and
it violates multiple
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then I agree, and I think we just leave it,
Yeah,
like we said in the next paragraph, that we just insert that language
Yeah.
in there.
yeah.
And that way it leaves it to the discretion
Of the-
within the law here,
Yeah.
obviously, but.
It still leaves open the question about how you handle multiple tree cut illegally at one time. It just doesn't seem to me that a $300 fine for 5 trees is a sufficient fine.
Now, about entering private property, I mean,
Yeah.
if we have a permit issued, it even says it in there, and it refers to this a section of the regulations under the Wetlands Protection Act that you can go on private property to perform
Right.
compliance for a permit.
Right.
So I don't think you have to get permission.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, right, we don't have to add that language.
Yeah.
So I think we mostly just leave it the way we revised it last time.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So you need a motion to pass this?
I think we're gonna make, we can, or we can wait until she's got the final draft and make a motion
Yeah.
on that whole,
Okay.
Yep.
because
Makes
that's,
sense.
So, yeah, we'll do a final draft, and then we'll have a final red-lined draft
yeah,
that'll,
So we can vote on the entire package.
yeah. Right.
yeah,
Right.
all right.
All right.
Anything else?
No, it's hot in here.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
No
Right, is
new
that it?
business, no old business?
No, that was the bylaw
Okay, I'll second it then.
minutes.
Any discussion, Steve?
Not a word.
All in favor?
May I quote
you on
that?
Yeah, I'll be brief.
All right.